Water gushing everywhere after intense rains.
I've never seen this.
Day by day.
It didn't give us any chance.
Nowhere is immune. Winds rip through communities, leaving destruction in their path.
That's right over the zoo, dude.
Homes in need of repair, children worried and scared. Severe weather season does not know age or gender. Winds, rain, tornadoes, all part of a severe weather season that means the same things. Recovering, regrouping, rebuilding, and hoping for a calmer tomorrow. Good evening. I'm 5 on your side, Chief Meteorologist Cindy Preszler. Throughout the next hour, I'll be joined by my colleagues of the 5 on your side First Alert Weather Team, looking at the severe weather season with an eye to keeping you and your family safe. The St. Louis area is certainly no stranger to severe storms, but during the holidays at the end of 2015, more than a week of heavy rain and flooding caused an imprint we'll never forget. From St. Charles County to Brentwood to Granite City, the last week of December is etched in the minds of thousands of St. Louisans.
The water just kept coming and coming. I really got nervous when I saw a guy walking down Manchester and it was waist high.
As flooding grew worse, residents raced against time. Activity was everywhere for that solid week. Up to 100 people were sandbagging frantically in Kimmswick near the Windsor Harbor Bridge. Homes and businesses were lost. In Valley Park, 800 families were evacuated at one point, followed by prayers.
The water to recede as much as possible, so there's no real fear in anything else happening.
A local Jimmy John's in Union was struggling underwater. Rescue crews were going by boat to look for those who needed help. In Illinois, Pontoon Beach city leaders said the conditions were the worst they had seen in 2 decades.
Everything's backed up. There's no place for the water to go.
And through those long weeks, everyone was doing the exact same thing. Watching, waiting, hoping for the best.
Day by day, we'll just have to wait and see. Can't control it. We just got to deal with it.
Scott, many believe it was the worst flooding in 20 years. And after those widespread floods comes tornado season. We've really been fortunate in this area so far.
But other parts of the country not so lucky, particularly hard hit this season, Oklahoma.
Several homes were destroyed near Tulsa after multiple tornadoes touched down. Huge trees are ripped from the ground and cars are smashed up beyond repair. Storm chasers captured some breathtaking video of a tornado touching down near the Tulsa airport. The roof of a Tulsa church was blown off during a group prayer meeting. The pastor says they are blessed to be uninjured.
We were huddled right in here. We just all balled up in a ball here and praying. And everything blew in around us, but we were good. None of us even have a scratch on us.
And a Maryland couple will never forget one night earlier this month. Strong winds caused a tree to crash through the roof into their bedroom. As she and her husband were sleeping when the poplar tree came crashing down, forecasters say winds gusted to over 60 miles per hour overnight, causing that damage.
Our bedroom's upstairs and all of this was shoved down into here. And in fact, my husband's iWatch was on the couch this morning.
In Priceville, Alabama, trees were ripped from their roots and RVs were flipped over. Gravestones from the 1800s were knocked over and flowers were blown astray. Forecasters say a tornado touched down in Fayette County, Alabama, tearing roofs right off of homes.
It wasn't like a freight train, it was like a jet airplane, just whoosh.
Decatur County, Georgia also suffered in this severe weather season. Residents say these storms sounded more eerie than they've ever heard before.
Seems like we were the target on the bullseye, or the bullseye on the target.
One of the most active times for tornadoes was in late February, and there's also been severe flooding in parts of the South, the Midwest, and Cindy, even in Las Vegas.
Both floods and tornadoes can cause enduring damage in a region. Throughout the hour we are spending together, we have lots of information about the effects of severe weather and how you can keep your family safe. Local governments are also looking at the problems caused by severe weather. Part of I-70 closed down after that week of chaotic weather, and solutions are costing time and money. St. Charles County is convinced it could happen again, so it took action to stop similar flooding incidents on highways. New steps are in the works to prevent any future flooding on I-70. Less than a month ago, the St. Charles County Council passed a resolution. The county has voted to formally request that MoDOT and the Army Corps of Engineers find a long-term solution to fix the flooding problem around I-70 and Dardine Creek.
1, 2, 3.
Businesses and nonprofits are coming back. One sign of recovery?
Took about 500 to 700 sandbags outside and dumped them out into the low area.
Volunteers help repair the ranch, which provides therapy for people with disabilities.
Some guys are inside breaking down stuff. You go back inside. The other guys, you're gonna go inside all these stalls.
The Therapy Ranch reopened a little more than a month ago. The nonprofit sits along the Mississippi River just south of Kimswick and sustained heavy damage.
Just an army of angels, really, that just keep around us, and they're always there for us. They're always coming back for us, and we always get put back together.
Right on St. Louis is serving clients again.
I'm 5 on your side meteorologist Mike Roberts with a safety tip. Turn around, don't drown. Flowing water can move your car quickly, even an SUV. It's safer to turn back and find another way instead of taking a chance. You can't tell how deep a puddle is, much less deep standing water. The risk is simply not worth losing your life.
What we've done here, we've got a tire cutaway, and we're going to take the penny and actually place it inside the tire tread itself. And if you can see the hairline of the president, Mr. Lincoln, tire needs to be replaced.
When we come back, safety in the streets, what you can do on the road to keep your family from being victims. And before we go, a look at some of the pictures and video that illustrate the power of nature. 5 on your side, preparing you for severe weather continues.
Spring is the wet weather season for the most part. So one of the functions of a tire is that it has to dissipate the water as you drive on top of the water. The little channels in the tire, as you speed along, it displaces the water so the rubber actually stays on the road instead of staying on top of the water. And when you get on top of the water, because of worn tires or just an excessive amount of water, you begin to hydroplane. And as you begin to hydroplane, you're going to lose control of the front of the car, the back of the car, or the entire car.
We can't say it enough. If you come away with anything from this program, let it be this. Driving in flooded highways do not mix. Safety experts say the majority of flood-related deaths are caused by people attempting to drive through moving water. You can't ever be too prepared to navigate flooded streets and highways. Not only do motorists drive into water they believe is shallow, but other fatalities can be caused by flash flooding. What should you do if you're caught off guard? 5 on your side First Alert meteorologist Jessica Quick has some answers.
That's right, Cindy. Common sense plays a big part of it, and we have advice from a pro.
Phil Link with AAA says if you're caught in bad weather, be aware of your surroundings. Slow down and don't brake too fast. Pay attention to drivers around you.
You have to anticipate the guy in front of you is going to do something a little crazier than you would do. So you want to obviously slow down, back off the throttle, give everybody plenty of room. And if you are going to get off the roadway, use your directional signals earlier than you normally would, so you give everybody an idea what's going to happen.
First, make sure your car is in shape. Check your windshield wipers and tire tread before you leave the driveway.
What you want to do is take your penny, turn it upside down. If you can see Lincoln's hairline, the tire itself needs to be replaced.
Link says wind and hail can cause people to panic, but it's best to just be cautious and wait the storm out in a safe spot.
Stay off the side of the road as far as you can so you're out of harm's way. Take an exit even though it's not your final destination. Just take an exit, find a gas station, find a restaurant, sit tight and it'll all blow over.
Many people take cover under an overpass, and that's one of the biggest mistakes a driver can make.
There are 2 major reasons you should not park under an overpass during severe weather. The first one is all of this traffic has to go somewhere. If everyone parks underneath the overpass, that can block traffic from people actually trying to get away from the storm. And the second one is, even on a windy day, wind speeds do increase under overpasses, and that can actually funnel flying debris faster through the overpass.
One last piece of advice. If a tornado is imminent and you cannot find an exit, as a last resort, find a culvert or the lowest lying area and cover your head with your hands to protect yourself from flying debris.
We often tell our viewers, if you can stay home during severe weather, do it. The run to the grocery store evening out isn't worth it during severe weather.
And Jessica, all these tips are great, but you also have to make sure you can access the latest forecast information. That's where we come in.
That's right. KSDK.com is a lifesaver. You can get us 24/7 on your smartphone or your laptop or desktop at home.
Taking advantage. Some repair professionals will help you get back to normal, but not everyone. How you can keep your family from adding insult to injury.
like we had worked so hard for nothing. My employees, my family, our friends, volunteers had come to help, and it all was for nothing almost.
A family tries to rebuild after a heartbreaking loss. Dickie Bub is coming back.
It's important to remember that the emotional side of this has not done yet. It's got a long way to be cleaned up.
And later, the high cost of cleanup that has nothing to do with dollars and cents. Learning the new normal. Stay with us. 5 on your side, preparing you for severe weather. We'll be right back. One of the biggest problems during severe weather, power outages.
I was able to get an insight into Ameren and how they get power restored after storms, tornadoes, or other serious weather conditions.
And we trim about 4,000 miles of line every year. And that really allows the system to be more resilient to that kind of severe weather.
Ameren's Dave Wakeman says the power delivery system is designed for extreme weather based on the National Electrical Code.
We design our system, and our standards are that it's the severe extreme weather conditions, which is really a ½ inch of ice and a 40-mile-an-hour wind.
Power pole inspections are on a rotating basis to ensure the poles are not rotting or infested by termites. Workers even drill into the poles to get a more accurate idea of the integrity of the wood.
In this warehouse in Maryland Heights, Ameren has equipment and parts stockpiled, like this clamp, on the trailers ready to go for a storm.
Storm trailers are like mobile warehouses, and what they do is they allow us to put all the equipment that we need to restore service to all of our customers, and we can move that around on a minute's notice. And then that makes it more efficient for our linemen and our field forces to be able to get the material they need to get the service restored to our customers.
Something called smart grid technology is modernizing the grid.
And these devices actually talk to each other to sense when there's a loss of power, so they can reroute power. We can then determine how many customers we can get back on without ever actually being in the field. We can then take care of that and then get our crews located to the certain damage quicker than we have in the past.
And of course, good weather information is important for forecasting storms. Partnering with St. Louis University, Ameren operates the Quantum Weather Network of nearly 100 weather stations across the region. And when the weather is expected to get bad, Ameren opens its Emergency Operations Center to coordinate restoration and recovery efforts, working around the clock until the lights are back on.
Now, it really is a complex operation of coordination and teamwork. So, Cindy, that's how they get the power back on.
Property damage is another problem in severe weather. The AMVETS Post 1 in South St. Louis County is searching for a new location. News Channel 5's Jennifer Meckles reports about the organization's worries and about what this means for those they help.
I think we can kind of get a look inside through the window in the back.
Most of the outside debris is gone, but as Rob Quick will show you,
You can kind of see that the flood was high enough to bring all the ceiling down, and
the inside of AMVETS Post 1 is still a disaster.
it engulfed us. Everything was submerged except for a couple feet of the building.
2 pictures taken just hours apart best tell the story, as this building, like so many others that week in late December, went underwater.
Our pavilion was destroyed. Everything we had was pretty much taken away. The structure itself was damaged.
AMVETS is a veteran service organization that offers veterans not just a social gathering, but a way to help others after their service ends. About 300 are part of this post, an historic building that's bounced back from flooding before. But this time,
And some of the things that we could do to remain here and keep our business here are cost inhibitive.
this place was paid off, Quick says, so a new building will add more bills.
And so the more money we put out in periphery items to maintain our ability to do that service is money that we can't go directly to that veteran.
Taking money away from the greater mission.
We'll persevere. We adapt and overcome. But nonetheless, it's still inhibiting us from being able to do that veteran service that we love so much.
The AMVETS tell me they've been renting space from the Lions Club just down the road and on the other side of the levee. They've started an online campaign to raise money for a new building. Look for a link to that on our website, KSDK.com. Jennifer Meckles, News Channel 5, on your side.
Insurance can make the difference in your family's future. 5 on your side meteorologist Jessica Quick breaks it down.
Call it preventative medicine. Take the time now to withstand a disaster.
Valley Park resident Sally Stoddard is used to this, putting her ruined belongings on the junk pile.
I lost all my appliances. I lost all my furniture.
Her condo had 3.5 feet of water and she didn't have flood insurance. Insurance agent Mary Lou Lyerla says consumers can have many different levels of flood insurance.
The coverage on each policy is the same coverage. It's going to cover the same things.
She helps people get covered through the National Flood Insurance Program.
All owners of properties in a FEMA participating community qualify for FEMA flood insurance. There are a few communities that are not enrolled in the participating FEMA program, so they would not be eligible for a FEMA product.
Even if you're not in a typical flood-prone area, you still need to find out what's covered through the National Flood Insurance Program and your personal policy. One homeowner discovered that problem this winter when water destroyed his carpet and put cracks in his basement floor.
They informed us that it's likely not covered because this would be considered a flood, even though there's no flood around us and we're at the top of a hill.
What your policy covers is a matter of what you purchased.
If an uninsured homeowner receives FEMA assistance, that homeowner is required to have a policy in the future.
After months of recovery, area businesses and organizations began to come back to life. One of them was Dickey Bub, a farm and home store in Union, hard hit by the overflowing Burbus River. 5 on Your Side photojournalist Terri Krueger has the road to recovery.
Looking back, how you can transition from Christmas to disaster is kind of overwhelming, but we were celebrating our Christmas with my family at my house. My father, who is the owner of the company, mentioned that there may be some rain coming and we should probably check the forecast and meet at the store. We met at 9 a.m. and we contacted the weather service, and we felt pretty confident that we were going to have water in the store, but we just had no idea at that time the amount of water we would have. We raised everything in the store up very high, up 6-7 feet. So we felt pretty confident that we were going to have 3 to 4 feet of water within the store and that we had minimized our losses as best we could. So when we left that day at about 3 o'clock and knew we couldn't do anything else, that was where the prediction was. It was that after we had already gone that last prediction came out, of which was actually accurate, that it was going to have so much water. So had we had that in that morning, then we would have prepared very differently that day. It just had felt like we had worked so hard for nothing. My employees, my family, our friends, volunteers had come to help, and it all was for nothing almost. We had the maximum coverage, but it still didn't even cover half of our losses. We watch the river pretty closely, so we will be watching it on a regular basis. We have a specific plan for in the future when we feel like that is going to happen, and we'll probably remove a lot more things. We were closed for about 85 days. And we opened March 18th, so we were closed on December 28th. And if you think about the time frame, in 85 days, we've lost everything. We cleaned the store out, rebuilt it, we've restocked it, and we're selling everything that was destroyed and damaged. I feel very confident where we're going to be a year from now. I always will worry about the Burbus River coming back up, but for the most part, I'm just really thrilled at all that my team has accomplished over the last 90 days. It's been amazing.
Joplin Memories. Another landmark for recovery has been the city of Joplin. Casey Nolan brings us images from his time there. Our 5 on Your Side special, preparing you for severe weather, comes right back.
I'm 5 on Your Side meteorologist Mike Roberts with tips for tornado safety. A tornado warning means a tornado has been spotted or detected by radar. If you are inside, take cover immediately in the basement or on the lowest floor in an interior room, a small space like a closet or bathroom. Stay away from windows and doors. Outdoors, find a field or ditch and lie down as flat as you can so you can avoid flying debris. Never try to outrun a tornado, either in a car or on foot.
This tornado season has not been extreme so far, but we have had some very windy days. One of our viewers, Jason Vale, sent us video of the wind whipping up the dirt at the Greater Midwest Baseball Tournament in O'Fallon, Illinois. Winds top 40 miles per hour in places. Those high winds can also cause power outages, as they did that day on both sides of the river. 5 years ago, the situation was different. On Good Friday, a tornado struck with a vengeance. And one of the hardest hit places, Lambert St. Louis Airport.
Now, the damage may be in the past, but the lessons learned help shape the airport's future, as News Channel 5's Mike Bush reports.
The first thought was just heart-wrenching.
April 22nd, 2011 is a day Rhonda Hamnebrigi remembers well.
There were huge trees, there were huge wires down, telephone poles, and a lot of debris.
Lambert's director was on the job just over 15 months when the Good Friday tornado hit.
You worry about the people and the employees and the passengers inside. And then the next concern is just, okay, how are we going to handle this and how are we going to react, and is the team prepared for this?
They were 15 minutes after the tornado unleashed its fury.
There was already a triage station that had been set up, the firefighters, and there were police officers there. There was people on the bullhorns asking if anyone needed help.
But the damage hard to miss.
I mean, it was bad. If you looked at the front of the terminal, obviously the windows were all blown out. When I walked in, the floor was covered in glass. I mean, absolutely covered. Obviously everybody has the picture in mind of the car and over the rail, but the debris was just everywhere. You know, there was water coming in.
A visit to the C concourse, another big blow.
The ceiling was blown out. There were, large pieces of furniture upside down.
Sunday, Lambert was back in business. Some repairs made quickly, others would take time.
Tornado shelter signs, we didn't have them in the airport. We also had our operations center, which is kind of our heartbeat of the airport. So what we learned is that we need to have a secondary place. If we've got weather of that severity, we need to be able to get to an area where they can still operate, have all the access to phones, radios, updated equipment. So we've created a secondary spot for that as well.
Communications also getting an upgrade.
So we have a lot of CNN screens, we have a lot of digital screens now, and as the weather gets more severe, we can make the warnings more severe that come both on the audio as well as the visual.
The security checkpoint rebuilt. Lambert's iconic dome windows replaced.
Obviously, we did not want to destroy what was that structure and that well-known structure throughout the world. So that was kept. But from an interior renovation standpoint, there were so many things done.
Lambert's recovery, a lesson in process, planning, and perseverance.
Once we were able to get through the first few minutes of that horrible evening with no loss of life, it has been a silver lining.
Now those windows destroyed by the tornado, they were replaced. 300 panels total. That's about 16,000 square feet of glass.
What if we tell you that a little device just under $20 could save your life? In some cases, a NOAA weather radio can do just that. It doesn't matter if it was a tornado in Alabama or at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. They are unpredictable, unstoppable, and deadly. That's why having a NOAA weather radio could save your life.
It's a 24-hour service. There's forecast information on it. It all goes automatic from computer to computer, and then it's on the air. It is an actual voice synthesized system. So it's automatic, it's very fast. So when we issue a forecast or issue a warning, within seconds, it's going to be going out over the air.
The National Weather Service, NWS, has more than 1,000 transmitters nationwide, and they are constantly broadcasting weather information. All you need is a receiver like this. Put the batteries in, plug it in, and program it to alert for only your county or the counties around you.
And finally, in the menu it says Set Channel. There are 7 different frequencies of the National Weather Service. And here in St. Louis County, you'll set your radio to frequency number 7.
This little NOAA weather radio goes very well with our website and our app. The NOAA Weather Radio Network has been up and running for about 50 years. The information is free. All you have to do is receive it.
When we're talking about thunderstorms coming, start paying attention. Go check, listen to the radio maybe for a few minutes, find out what's going on, where are the storms. That way you won't get caught by surprise.
A NOAA Weather Radio is not a huge expense, particularly when weather experts tell us it has saved lives. We found some as inexpensive as $19 and as costly as $700. The Joplin tornado appeared so quickly, it's hard to know how much weather radios would have actually helped. 5 years ago, in the days after May 22nd, we sent several reporters to cover the aftermath, including 5 on Your Side's Casey Nolan, who recalls the images of those days.
Well, we got to Joplin the next morning after the tornado had hit. It was, it was easy to see that it was catastrophic, but it was hard to comprehend.
They had thousands of calls immediately after the storm of people saying their relatives or loved ones or friends or family were missing.
It was hard to get those images back to St. Louis and to give a true perspective of just how devastating and how catastrophic it was. So we decided, in an attempt to try to tell this story that seems so big, we decided to focus small and to try to tell individual stories.
I don't know what else to do, but look.
And I will never forget this one woman we found. She was just digging through one ditch.
So I'm down here looking to see if maybe my friend might have taken cover. There was a pillow on top down here too, so I was hoping that maybe she'd grabbed a pillow and taken cover.
Just about a year later, we were back for high school graduation.
When the EF5 tornado took out a third of her town, it severely damaged her family's home and put them all on the family roofing crew at night after day jobs and schoolwork.
That darn tornado.
Nearly a year later,
it was a different year. It was hard.
And far from the high school kid she was, Miranda has learned a lot about those around her and about herself.
I get angry. It's just sometimes I just don't know why it happened and I don't like the outcome of it.
For a lot of people, the symbol of just how powerful and how devastating the tornado was the hospital that was destroyed.
The hospital evacuated 180 patients after the tornado ripped the building apart. Several patients and employees were injured. 6 died.
So 4 years later, the new hospital was a symbol of progress. And it was definitely a sign of not only rebuilding, but investment in the city's future.
With every incident of severe weather, life change for thousands of our neighbors and countless stories of heartbreaking hardships are all over the map. 5 on Your Side meteorologist Scott Connell joins us with a close look at one such place.
Well, after emotional and financial hardships, Union, Missouri is on the mend. 5 on Your Side's photojournalist Terri Krueger captured that spirit in the words of one of the citizens.
Monday morning when I came to work was when I first heard that farmers and local residents in the Beaufort area were predicting a record flood. I did recheck my data with the Weather Service and they were still saying 28.5. The thing we did to try and preempt the damage is we started letting people know that we had 2 conflicting predictions. We know that what happens in Beaufort, those river levels, we can predict what's going to happen here in about a 24-hour basis, which is a lot of time when you're trying to move property out of the way and evacuate buildings. On the Burbage River, the only flood gauge that's used by the Weather Service is at the bridge in Union. Unfortunately, when it gets to its highest level there, that works pretty well for prediction downstream, but it doesn't help us. And in 2008, when we had a flood then, we used basically a manual gauge that was attached to a tree in the Beaufort area to make our prediction. We were very accurate then. We made an attempt to have another river gauge established then, but there was just no funding available at the time. This time, I think we're going to be a little more assertive in trying to get that gauge established. You know, one of the other things about the Burbage River is that when it floods, it cuts and Highway 50 is closed, it cuts our town in half. So we also had to establish services on the eastern side of town for police and fire and ambulance and public works. That's something that in our planning that we're going to have to keep in mind. If we have a historic flood again, we have to provide services on both sides of town. 32 buildings for those 32 people, that was significant. But when we look at compare ourselves to other cities that were impacted that had 300 and 400 buildings, we feel very fortunate. Union is operating. Most of our businesses are back up now going. We're getting there and we'll continue to work on it. The people were calm, my staff was calm, we knew we had work to do. We got out there and worked, and so did our residents, and that's why I think Union came away less impacted than we could have been.
Fighting back on flash flooding, an injured victim in a tree far from shore. It's just pretend, but the work is serious and difficult all the same.
Tornado alert.
Life-saving lessons.
I think whether you're at school or whether you end up being at the movie theater, at the mall, or at the grocery store, I think our students can take what they learn through our drills and really translate that into kind of the real world.
5 on Your Side, preparing you for severe weather, continues. There is good news and bad news and controversy about our river levees.
They may protect some, but who are they hurting downstream?
Since the Great Flood of 1993, it's estimated more than 70,000 levees have been built. When they work, areas behind them are spared, but some suggest these levees cause the rivers to run faster and forced even the largest among them to rise dramatically.
Levees do increase flood heights, especially, it's one thing to protect a few special areas, but when you try to have high levees both sides of the river, it causes a problem.
Washington University geologist Dr. Robert Criss has done research on flash flooding. He says the heavy rain last December should not have caused the larger rivers to rise so fast, especially the Mississippi.
That would not have happened except for the Mississippi River being so clogged up and restricted by levees and navigation structures. The big river should not respond in that way to a few days of rainfall. And that was unnatural. That's what we have done to the river.
Hydraulic engineer Russell Ehrlich disagrees. He says the levees are part of a larger flood management plan and a necessary one.
We know that there's an offset of risk when we put those in there, but there's a reason we do that, because there's a lot of, vital infrastructure that's behind those levees. So, yeah, there is some offset of some flooding that goes downstream, but there's a lot of flood protection that those levees are actually helping protect. So they're doing their job.
If projections for more heavy rains are correct, finding a way to manage large and small rivers will be a critical issue for both the levee haves and the levee have-nots. Flooding is so unpredictable that rescuing people may be measured in seconds. 5 on Your Side's Grant Bissell learned about swift water rescues from first responders who are constantly working to improve their skills.
Wild Horse Creek here along the edge of Babbler State Park is usually pretty docile, but on December 26th, this creek flooded to record levels, and it pulled a vehicle along with its driver into these murky waters. Rescue teams did their best to simulate that scenario. The setup was similar. An injured victim in a tree far away from shore.
You got your PFD's helmets, you got a PFD and a helmet for the victim.
And while the banks were dry this day, the work was still serious and difficult.
My right arm and leg is broke.
It's a very realistic, real-world scenario that we could be confronted with in these flash flooding situations.
Rescuers had to quickly assess the situation and come up with a fast but safe way to rescue the stranded driver.
The problem is getting through all the brush.
Just advising Site 2 is attempting their plan Charlie at this time.
Knots were tied, harnesses were tightened, and a rescuer on a suspended line was sent across the creek to pull the victim to safety. Teamwork was key amongst men and women who rarely get the chance to work side by side.
Stop. Reset. Stop. Good. Halt.
In the end, areas of focus became clear.
I think the biggest thing that we saw was some communication-related issues on the different radios that the different teams were using.
But everyone went home safe, just like they did that night in December. Firefighters say drills like this keep them ready for the next big disaster, but their message to drivers remains the same.
Please don't ever drive into the flooded water.
In West St. Louis County, Grant Bissell, News Channel 5 on your side.
It's just a loss, that you can't make up.
Vanishing memories. Why floods don't just take away possessions. What they steal has a much greater cost.
Since last December, we've all been asking ourselves, can flooding be worse next time? Well, a group of scientists have been addressing that very question.
When it comes to heavy rain, the clear consensus among climate experts is that there will be more extreme rain, and some think that's our fault.
Flooding, the kind we're experiencing in the Midwest, is primarily a man-made phenomenon. We're aggravating this problem very rapidly and very seriously.
Experts, including Dr. Criss, say climate change is to blame, causing frequent, severe short storms. Not everyone agrees on the intensity, but almost everyone does agree it's not a great legacy.
But it's a pretty weak trend, and it's a pretty noisy signal. Your children and grandchildren are going to be asking questions, and they might be asking some pretty penetrating questions in the future, like, well, Granddad, why didn't you do something at that time?
Have we reached a point where climate change is being included in river forecasting? Hydrologists say no, because they're working on a much shorter timeline when trying to predict river flooding.
that's such a small speck of time compared with the longer term trends that we're talking about with climate change and its potential impacts way down the road.
Even if they don't know the timetable, scientists do agree there is a rise coming in the risk of future flooding.
If flooding gets worse, it can only spell some more bad news for your health.
And mold loves wet environments. While it's bad for your house, it's worse for your health. After last December's record rainfall, basements all over the St. Louis area flooded. And where there is water, there is mold.
If your house has mold, it's bad for your house. So all mold is bad for the house. It gets into the floor, it gets into the walls, it gets into the drywall, and you never get it out, okay? For people, if you are allergic to the mold that's in your house, it's going to cause significant problems.
There are thousands of different kinds of mold in our environment. Experts say if the mold count is at high enough levels, serious health issues can happen. It's everything from sneezing to asthma attacks, coughing, eye burning, and even bloody noses. You can have skin rashes, hives, and at its very worst, nervous system changes like headaches and memory loss. If you think you may be allergic to mold, there are many over-the-counter medications that work well. But it may be best for you to stay out of the basement after flooding. It only takes 24 to 48 hours after water exposure for mold to develop, and it will continue to grow unless steps are taken to eliminate the moisture source.
You see a water line, remember that the mold may be as much as 18 inches above the water line. So you have to cut it out, take it out. You have to spray the wood, which has gotten wet, with something that will kill the mold. 10% Clorox is good. And then you put the drywall back up. But if you have a leak, you better fix the leak before you redo all the house, because it's just going to come all over again.
But homes and buildings can be saved, even if they are almost covered by water. You need help from a qualified professional. You also need to wash all clothes, and furniture has to be cleaned properly. It's not just physical health that can be a problem. Severe weather or flooding can take a psychological toll. 5 on Your Side's Kay Quinn takes a look in our project Alive and Well.
Tears and heartache mixed with the soggy mementos now ruined by flooding.
It's tough on us. It's a lot of stress that people don't realize it until you're in that position.
It's where our children have grown up. It's just a loss, that you can't make up.
And according to area mental health experts, when it comes to the flood and our feelings, the worst may be yet to come.
It's important to remember that the emotional side of this has not done yet. It's got a long way to be cleaned up.
Tom Duff with Catholic Family Services says it's often after a crisis has passed and we have a chance to catch our breath, the physical impact of all the stress sets in.
You look for a change in your behavior, so maybe you're sleeping more or less, difference in diet, irritability.
It turns out living through a flood is a lot like experiencing the death of a loved one. In fact, don't be surprised to go through stages of grief.
But in cases of flooding, the reality is you've lost property, you've lost very cherished mementos, things that you connect to.
And because everyone is affected in different ways, don't forget to look for signs of toxic stress in your kids.
They're going to feel very unsafe. They're going to feel that a part of their property, part of their life, they've been uprooted. Those are the things that will affect them on a level of needing more routine and structure.
Trauma like a flood can trigger stress from other traumas in your past, so talking with a mental health expert can help.
It's a journey that you walk with somebody, and so it doesn't hurt. It's really a lot of talking and it's a lot of listening, and the therapist's job is to listen.
In the meantime, taking care of yourself should be your top priority.
Eating healthy, making sure you get sleep, taking a break from all the cleanup that you're doing, and that way you can take care of others as well.
Kay Quinn, News Channel 5 on Your Side.
Alive and Well STL is a project of KSDK to help eliminate toxic stress from our lives. In the severe weather season, we hear a lot about river levels.
With the historic flooding in December, we wanted a closer look at how the river levels are measured. The U.S. Geological Survey maintains the network of river gauges across the country. Of course, there's the old-fashioned way to get a river level with the measurement stick up against that pier. But here, along the Merrimack and Eureka, a pressure sensor is located at the bottom of the river. It measures the pressure of the water above it and correlates that to the river level, which is relayed via satellite to all of us who rely on it. The brand new gauge is up and running in Fenton and works similar to a police officer's radar gun.
Out there on the deck is a little cone that sticks out of the box. And what that's doing is it's sending energy down there to the water surface elevation, or to the water surface itself and that stage, and it's being able to transmit back. It gets us a distance, okay? Obviously, as the river starts to increase, that distance starts to decrease.
In the next few months, flood stage information will become available for this new Fenton location. The USGS operates over 500 river gauges across Missouri and Illinois.
High winds caused major damage to 3 cars on the Katy Trail. Firefighters say the high winds in combination with the soft, wet ground made it easier for the trees to fall.
The first tree that initiated it was about 30 inches in diameter. And when it was coming down, it took the top of another nearby tree with it and brought the whole thing down on the vehicles.
Tornado Alley starts to hit home. Why scientists think we're in for a bumpier ride.
Okay, so this is a tornado alert. Tornado alert, find your spots and follow your procedures.
5th grade, let's line up.
Practice makes perfect. How teachers are taking the panic out of learning safety. 5 on your side, preparing you for severe weather. We'll be right back. And before we go, a look at some of the pictures and video that illustrate the power of nature. As tornado season continues, some scientists are looking at where the twisters have been. Our Mike Roberts sees some surprising results.
Well, what is your understanding of Tornado Alley? Because it may be changing. From 1991 to 2010, these are the top 10 tornado-producing states. Rounding off the top 5, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, but there in the middle is Florida. And the rest of the top 10 include all points in Illinois and Missouri. Between 2000 and 2011, $2.5 billion worth of estimated property damage was done inside traditional Tornado Alley. But that same period of time, $15.5 billion worth of estimated property damage was reported for the next 16 highest tornado-producing states. Now, this is the area we associate with the traditional view of Tornado Alley. But there is a push now a few years old to change this and expand it across all of Missouri, all of Illinois, and much of the southeastern United States, including much of Florida.
Teachers on both sides of the river have to be prepared to keep kids safe, especially when spring storm season rolls around.
Parkway school administrators say recent weather events have helped restructure their procedures.
This is a tornado alert. Tornado alert, find your spots and follow your procedures.
Casey Klein is a teacher at Highcroft Ridge Elementary in Chesterfield, where kids are well versed in preparing for Mother Nature's worst. Klein says students know the drill even away from the classroom.
You'll hear kids come home and say, "Oh, I told my mom that we have to sit like this." You know, they'll come back telling stories of it. So I think that they go home and definitely share with their parents, and they know the seriousness of it.
Parkway School District officials had early preparation in mind when they redesigned the school's interior. Just in the past 5 years, schools in Missouri and Oklahoma took a direct hit from severe weather. 7 children were killed when an EF5 tornado hit 2 elementary schools in Moore, Oklahoma in 2013. Joplin High School was also destroyed by an EF5 tornado in 2011, and luckily no one was inside. Parkway Security Chief Fred Crawford says a crisis action team meets before each school year to plan for quick reactions.
Normally, because of our practice, it probably would take less than a minute, maybe even less than that, depending on where classes dismiss out into the hallway or into a safe area. and away from windows, and it's very quick.
Really, from the first day a student comes in, even in kindergarten, we're starting to talk about safety.
McPherson says as soon as the children enter as kindergartners, they get exposure to safety drills, and those experiences can translate to when they're at home and when they need to take action.
I think whether you're at school or whether you end up being, at the movie theater, at the mall, or at the grocery store, I think our students can take what they learn through our drills and really translate that into kind of the real world atmosphere and just being aware. We talk a lot about being safe as being aware of your surroundings and knowing where a safe place might be. And so our students learn that here, and we hope that they take that outside of school too.
On behalf of the 5 on Your Side First Alert Weather Team, thanks for joining us. You can see our stories again on KSDK.com and keep our app handy when severe weather strikes. We leave you with images of the power of nature. Good night.